right, welcome to another episode of Phoenix Edge. I'm your temporary main host tonight, Eric.
And I am Stan.
And tonight, Hat unfortunately couldn't make it here with us. He's got a lot of commitments at work right now, and he's got a lot on his plate. So it's just going to be us two tonight here, going over things with you, and hopefully another great podcast. We do have a couple good topics for you tonight. We do have first the FF7 remake back of the box. We talked about this last week, and we it was a rumor, but it's actually confirmed what the back of the box has, and we'll go over that. We got Dissidia NT updates are coming to an end, both for the arcade and PS4 version. We got The Witcher 3 being updated on the Switch with very significant updates that are really good. And then we have the Fairy Tale RPG being delayed from March to June of this year for Fairy Tale RPG fans. And we also are going to go over Bioware's plans to reinvent Anthem. And we do have a few Discord questions tonight. One coming from Valvedrix. Has a game ever captivated you so much that you didn't want to stop playing it? And if so, which game was it? And then we also... well, I'm sorry, that's the only one question we have. But let's start off with the first topic. And of course, it's a FF7 Remake one. Because we always got something every week to say about it. But
Yeah.
we can have Stan post a screenshot up in the box, but we do have pretty much the entire English version. To be specific, it's the European version of the
Yeah.
game. It has a Peggy 16, and we have a couple bits of information here. And I'm very sure you've already thoroughly diagnosed this and studied this back cover. So why don't you go over with us what interesting things you found out of it?
Yeah, so we saw, well, we mentioned last week that there was the two Blu-ray discs symbol on there, and also it listed 100 gigabytes as the install size. And that's the same as we saw on the leaked box art from last week, which I think was the Korean version, if I remember correctly. And now we see the exact same thing on this box art. So expect 100 gigs and two discs with a very long install, probably. And then we have some text that's on the back of the box. I don't know if you guys consider this a spoiler or not, but if you don't want to be spoiled what it says on the back of the box, then maybe mute for the next 20 seconds or so. It says, the world is under the control of Shinra, a corporation controlling the planet's life force as Mako Energy. In the city of Midgar, Cloud Strife, former member of Shinra's elite soldier unit, now turned mercenary, lends his aid to the Avalanche resistance group, unaware of the epic consequences that await him. And so that's kind of just a very basic outline of the story. But there's another section kind of below that that says pretty clearly here. It says, the story of this first standalone game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake project covers up to the party's escape from Midgar and goes deeper into the events occurring in the city than the original Final Fantasy VII.
Wow, they
So
just really got to put that disclaimer in. This is exactly where it ends for the first part.
yeah, they spoiled exactly where the end of the game happens. And it's also what they've been saying all along. They've been saying, like, hey, this game is only Midgar, right? Now, in the past, I want to say a few months ago, people were kind of saying, hey, the the front of the box, which we've seen for a long time, the logo just says Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it doesn't say Part 1, right? And so people were saying, hey, that's kind of false advertising, or what if somebody just grabs this off the shelf thinking that they're getting the full remake of Final Fantasy VII, and they don't keep up with gaming news, or they don't, click on articles discussing the game or listen to podcasts like this one, they wouldn't know. But now it's kind of like right on the back of the box, it's like you said, it's a clear disclaimer of the fact that this is a multiple part game. So
yeah, I just find it really funny. It just seems like they are trying to prevent false advertising as much as possible, because the game is just called FF7 Remake. It's not like FF7 Remake Part 1 Venture into the City. It's just called FF7 Remake. So if someone picks it up who somehow has never heard of any of this before, and they're like, oh my god, one of my favorite games, they remade it, I want to play the modern version, and then they find out it only goes up to the end of Midgar, and I'll be like, what is this shit? And I would want to sue Square Enix. I doubt there is a situation that would happen, but there are people out there. But I guess that's just to protect their own ass. It's like, this is first part of the series. Like, so what will they call the sequel? Like FF7 Remake 2?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's it's clearly there just so that, like you said, if someone complains, they can be like, well, did you read the back of the box before you bought the game? They're covering themselves for sure.
You also notice down here, well, first I'll just say the game is 100 gigabytes. Meaning, like, if you download it, it's likely going to be 100 gigabytes, and maybe more on a physical disc. Like, that second disc that they're talking about, just like we said last week, it's like Red Dead Redemption 2. They have one disc that's there purely for installation, and then they have the other one that's like the actual game. And so you're going to be sitting there for a good long time waiting for that to download. If it's anything like Red Dead Redemption 2, it took nearly not 2 hours, I would say maybe a little over an hour to get the game to where it is, and that's not counting any day one DLC on top of that. So like I said last week, if you're planning on taking the week off for this game or taking the day off or something, I would make sure you prepare yourself for at least the first 2 hours, and when you get home and put the disc in, you're not playing the game.
Yeah. It's going to take a while.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. And I know I'm going to hear a lot of complaints. I mean, it's just like when Final Fantasy 15 came out. Oh, man. I think it was 3 hours before I could actually start playing the game.
Wow.
Like, I took a small nap, and I, like, set the alarm for, like, an hour. I came back, it wasn't even halfway done. I was like, God, thanks. But yeah, do be prepared for that. Another thing I did notice is the HD video output. I don't know if this is just the European version specifically, but it looks like it only supports 720p, 1080i, and 1080p. So it doesn't, I don't know if it doesn't support 4K or not, or does the PS4 not like even say 4K, even if it's not like inherent 4K?
I'm not sure. I don't own a PS4 Pro, so I'm pretty sure if there is a model that can do it, it's the Pro. The regular PS4 is not capable of 4K output.
Yeah, it's not built for 4K, but the Pro at least like displays in 4K, even though it's not like hardware 4K. So I don't know if they show that in here or they'll blow it up to 4K. Oh, you know what? I feel dumb. There's a PS4 Pro enhanced bar right here to the right.
It says enhanced, but I don't know. Yeah, no details.
It will likely just it'll probably just be 4K enhanced. I think the frame rate's probably going to be the same across the board.
Mhm.
Like a game like this, I think needs to retain its 60 frames or stick to 30 frames, and
Yeah, as long as it's consistent,
yeah.
whatever they target.
But that's the most we got. That we got just some smaller stuff on the bottom. Of course, we know Unreal's being used. Bink Video, or that is, I've never heard it before.
It's like graphics company, or I've seen it before in various games, but I couldn't tell you what they do.
Yeah. So I don't think there's much more on this box that we can cover. Of course, we got a picture of Cloud Ifrit. Got to get a picture of Tifa in there for a little eye candy.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess that's as much as you can get out of that. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on to the next topic. That's the shortest FF7 remake topic we've ever had.
Yeah, we literally had one screenshot to go over.
Next
One.
one's kind of interesting because I feel like in a strange way I saw this coming, but they are stopping updates for Dissidia NT.
Yep.
And which is very interesting because they just released more characters recently. They got in Arden, Renoa, Tifa, Camelot from Final Fantasy 11 for any people who actually know what that is. I do, and I really love that. Um, but unfortunately, yeah, they are stopping the service. It turns out that no one wanted to play it as an esport. Um, it didn't make the wide appeal that they uh, wanted to do. There is a lot of problems that did come with it. I mean, uh, first off, the online servers are absolutely awful. You have to wait
Yep.
forever to get a game going.
Yeah.
And secondly, for people who were like fans of the previous Dissidia, were not interested in because there wasn't a real story mode. Like everything, you could just easily YouTube, and I think it was like an hour's worth of cutscenes. And I know this one's probably more of a nitpick from me, but there are some other people also who are not thrilled with the 3 versus 3 aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't really our cup of tea. I know you play. I know you've played a lot more than I have.
Yeah.
So what do you think with all this?
Well, yeah, I think the writing was on the wall when they released the free version not too long ago, right? That was just at that point they realized like this game is coming to its end, and they're just trying to get more people to try it out to keep it going a little longer and see if they can hook some more people to buy those characters, those character passes like Arden and Tifa, and like whatever costume DLC they have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the game was kind of like from launch you could tell, and I bought the game the not immediately when it came out, but like I think on the first sale. They had a sale on it pretty quickly and it went down to like $40, and that's when I dove in like a couple months after release. And I played it and I enjoyed it when it worked. So like you already said, the online they use a peer-to-peer hosting um, framework for the online. And when you have 6 people, connecting from 6 different connections, dialing in, if the host lags, it just makes the game unplayable basically for all the other players.
You see, that's really off-putting because if they were so intent on entering the, like, maybe not, I don't mean esports, I mean like the Evo scene
Mm-hmm.
with this game, and they really should have dished out some money for like some like a lot better networking.
Yeah.
Nintendo at least has the excuse with Smash Bros that they don't intend the game to be an Evo
Right.
tournament type game, which
Hmm.
is why they don't directly support it, and that's why they tell them like it's community driven. So they at least kind of have it. It's not a good excuse, but they at least have an excuse to not really care too much about the servers if the
Hmm.
servers are not absolutely perfect. But if Square Enix really wanted to get into the scene, which it obviously looks like they did, they really sacrificed a lot of things to just make sure it had a strong online component to it.
Hmm.
Like, I would have dished out a little more money to make sure that absolutely worked. And
Yes.
from what I hear, it was very off and on.
Yeah. Um, that's definitely true. And like Smash Brothers also has the advantage of, well, not advantage, it has the feature of actually being playable multiplayer, like couch, like couch co-op or couch, free for all or 1v1 or whatever you want. Whereas this game, the multiplayer is completely online. And so if the online is garbage, that's like half, or in this, it also doesn't help that in this game, that, like you said, the single player, the story mode is just, it feels like a complete afterthought. It's not very, very good. It's completely forgettable. Um,
Now, I'll give them a little bit. I'll defend them a little bit. This game was originally built for arcade
yes.
in Japan.
Hmm.
So it would make sense that they do not have all the bells and whistles
Hmm.
to the arcade machines, because you're not going to sit there and get invested in hours and hours and hours at a time like the original Dissidias,
Hmm.
which were handheld titles that, they needed something to make more out of the game. So I kind of understand the angle with Dissidia NT when it got ported to PS4.
Yeah.
Maybe because it was released under popular demand. I don't think there was any intent to make any real strong story modes. So I do understand it from that angle. I was kind of hoping they would just kind of do Dissidia NT2 and build it with like console and single player in mind, or people who want to do long investment.
Right.
But it kind of looks like they have no plans for that right now.
Yeah. I saw a sales chart actually of like the first two games, and it actually makes sense. Like you said, this is a port of the arcade game, Dissidia Arcade, which was actually pretty successful from what I understand in the arcades, because in that setting, you've got 3 to 6 arcade machines on the wall, right? And then they're all just talking to each other. It doesn't necessarily have to connect, to another arcade machine, like, in a different arcade. You can play 3v3 in the same building, shoulder to shoulder with somebody. And that also encourages teamwork, which the game really, you really need solid teamwork with your other two teammates in order for this game to be fun. If you're, and so that's a huge advantage that the arcade version has. But going back to the sales, the first Dissidia game I saw, it sold about like 1.8 million units, and it was actually more popular in North America than it was in Japan. But then Dissidia Duodecim sold about half as much, like half the sales of the original, even though the second game is like much better, and it also includes like all the content from the first game.
Oh yeah,
So
that's the one I invested hours and hours in.
yeah, so it makes sense from their perspective. Like they had no plans of making a Dissidia 3 in the same style, right? It was actually Team Ninja who developed the game, or the director. I can't remember the director's name at the moment, but he basically went to Nomura and was like, "Hey, I want to make a Dissidia game for the arcade." Like that was the main audience that the whole time, and he gave him they got the green light to do that basically. And the game plays more like another popular arcade game in Japan called Gundam Extreme Versus, which is a similar thing, but it's 2v2, right? It's two Gundams versus another two Gundams, but it's the same idea. You're like on a 3D map and you kind of dash around, right, in the Gundams, and you try and use your partner to kind of team up and secure damage on the opponent. So right out the gate, like I see I can't get too mad at people because this game has so many other problems, right? So I totally understand anybody who's like, oh, Dissidia NT, like, what a failure, you know, because it is. Like, just from the numbers, right? Clearly, from all the resources they invested into this game, they wanted it to be much better, right?
Yeah. I don't think the game is a failure as a product. I personally don't care for the three versus.
Mhm.
I like the one versus one where you're just getting down and dirty with your opponent. But I do understand that the concept of the three versus three does work.
Yeah.
Everything is built and works as intended. Like there isn't like necessarily I mean there's faults with the game for sure, but on a
Mhm.
fundamental level, the game works perfectly.
Yeah, like the 3v3 gameplay, although it's not for everyone, it is well designed. Like when you can actually get in a non-laggy, game where both teams are playing as a team, which is like so rare, unfortunately, when you're logging on from the console experience, right? Unless you're like in a group and you have two other people who also own the game and you have voice chat and you're actually communicating with each other, like how to, play the game as it's going on. Without that situation, if you're just going solo, trying to, cooperate with other people, it doesn't work very well, especially at low rank, because a lot of people play the game the way you would play the original Dissidia, which is just 1v1, right? You find your target and then you just kind of duke it out, and you're not really paying attention to the other players. And that's how I played in the beginning, and that will cause you a lot of problems trying to play this game in that way. So,
That's exactly how I tried to play it when I first did. Then
yeah.
it's like there's like all these like arena stuff that you have to pay attention to. There's the
Hmm.
summons you have to take into consideration, stuff like that. I just straight out chose Jack, and I just wanted to go in and just wreck the shit out of everyone. But it's like then like I got people telling me like no, you gotta go hit the thing over here first. You gotta like come with us. Like, okay, now go get him. I was like, no, I'm beating the crap out of this guy.
Yeah. Like,
Like,
unless you're on the same page with your teammates, I mean, it may be the case that you may still win because it's very possible the other team is in the same situation and they're not really on the same page. But I've been in a lot of games where I felt the other team was like more skilled, like better players, but we won because we played as a team, you know. Like we covered each other's backs. Like when somebody got knocked against the wall and was about to be killed, like we stayed close to each other so that we could try and knock the guy away, prevent that killing blow. And also like teaming up on the summons. If you have to push the touchpad in order to start summoning, but if all three players push the summon at the same time, it summons instantly, which is like a huge, so you got to coordinate like, hey, we have the summon gauge full, like let's all summon immediately. Because if you try and summon yourself, but then the other team is like coordinated, you can be charging up your summon bar on your own while your two teammates are distracted doing something else. The other team can just boop, just all hit the button all at once, and they will beat you. Like they will, even though you were sitting there charging your summon for several seconds.
mm-hmm.
So it's like fundamentally designed that if you have a team all working together, you have a huge advantage over people who are just kind of logging on solo, just trying to play the game for a couple hours and have some fun.
Yeah, I do think this series does have potential to be popular, but I think it just needs to change a few things for like I mean, since the second game would be built with also coming out with consoles in mind, I think there's a lot of stuff that probably didn't translate as well from arcade to home console. So if
Yeah.
they first, of course, add a story mode, a
Hmm.
huge story mode, single player campaign, that's
Yes.
something
With
people definitely want.
yeah, with like RPG elements actually in it, right? Give your character the ability to level up and have different skills they can equip and different equipment, because that's what the meat of the original Dissidia games really was.
Yeah, and of course, like when you if you're doing like for competition, for like a For Glory competition, like turn all the RPG stuff off. It's
Hmm.
just like how the character is designed to be balanced.
Yes.
So yeah, of course, do that. Make it a 1v1 game, but the three versus three is version is also available. So you can either play in ranked matches and one versus one,
Hmm.
or you can play in ranked matches three versus three. Two different type of games they have in there. And of course, have all the characters in the first game come back and just add a season pass to bring more characters in over time. I think it would I think it would have a great second shot.
Yeah, it definitely needed a 1v1 mode for console, like for all the reasons I mentioned before, is like the average console player is just one person sitting down booting up their PS4, wants to go online and wants to have some fun. They're not really thinking about like, well, I need to find two teammates who I trust, and then like coordinate with them when's the best time to all log on and play. Like, no, most people are coming home from work or school and they just want to boot up the game for a couple hours and have some fun, and not think about that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it would be good if it had a 1v1 mode, but you would have had to rebalance all the characters because a lot of them, in fact, almost all of them, can't get a guaranteed uh, hit, like a HP attack hit, unless you splat somebody against the wall. So that's where the 3v3 aspect comes in, of course, because like if your teammate can lock somebody down, well, then you can combo and land your big HP attack, if you're coordinating with each other. But other than that, there's very few ways to get like a guaranteed combo into doing damage to the opponent, which would, if you play 1v1 in this game, and both players know what they're doing, it's very dragged out. Like nobody makes any aggressive moves very often, or they're too aggressive and it just ends very quickly.
Yeah, something I definitely noticed too, the layout and the moveset's a lot more simplified.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because they want you to both focus on that and the arena itself.
Yes.
Instead of these like longer, more complicated combos that the previous Dissidia had.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do understand. Definitely understand from that extent for it. But, seriously, if I mean, they'll probably not make a second one just because of just the nature of the business. It's if it's not making money, why make a sequel?
Yeah.
But
They said there's no plans for a sequel at this time, so we may have seen the last of this franchise for quite a while.
not unless you play on mobile.
Oh
Opera
yeah, the
Omnia.
Opera Omnia. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I played through that and I started enjoying it, but it goes back to that really tedious nature.
Mm.
And then like every cutscene, like when you get a new character, it's like, hey, I'm this character. I did this in this game that I'm known for. Now I'm joining your group because of it. And like while I do like they put characters I like from like FF11 and 14 in there,
Mm-hmm.
it's God, it's the same thing. They even use the same character model for each one. Like they use the same framework. If you look at each and every character, they have this like weird leg in front, leg behind, arm front, arm back, the
Mm.
stance and pose because they're using the framework for each and every one and just like redesigning the outer part, which I don't know if that's because they are trying to uh save some space or something like that. But I don't know why that bothered me more than it should. But I do like the little designs they make for each character. Uh, I don't know if they're all done by Nomura or not, but they all look like they're done from Nomura.
Mm.
But I mean, it's just another just keep tapping or
Right.
hit the auto button.
Yeah,
mobile game for me. So
it's more in like the the fun of it is more comes in the collection and like growth, right, of the characters, that aspect, rather than the gameplay actually being very engaging.
yeah, I mean, if you technically want a story mode of Dissidia, that's where you will get it, but it's you get it once in a while
Hmm.
is the best way to put it. But it's free. It wasn't really intrusive on the microtransaction, so people really want a Dissidia story. That is one way to get it. You just kind of have to bite your tongue with the mobile aspect of it.
Hmm.
But I hope Square Enix one day decides to return and give it a second chance. Um, I'm glad they were open minded with other characters. I love that Camelot was a Final Fantasy 11 villain was finally represented, and a
Yeah,
fun one at that. I do
yeah,
like that character. I'm actually going through the Rise of the Zillard story in 11 right now. That's why I'm resonating with it so much.
nice.
Yeah, but all right, we'll move to the next topic here.
Oh,
This one's a really good one. The Witcher 3 update for Switch. They
hmm,
released another one recently, and um, if you were someone who was skeptical about buying The Witcher 3 on the Switch, this might actually change your mind, especially if you already own the PC version. Um, what they have done specifically, the biggest one in this update, and we'll go over the other updates also, is that they've added the ability to cloud save your game data, and you can transition between the PC and the Switch anytime you want. So, um,
that's
if
pretty
you're
cool.
someone who like plays on this PC primarily, and you want to, and you're going out on a trip or something, let's say, and you won't be at your PC for a week, you have the Switch version. You can convert the save data over, and you can play in your hotel at night. And this is a really awesome feature. And while they're not the first to do it, I believe it was God. I forgot the name. It was another PC game that did it. Also, not Pillars of Eternity. God, I'm sure the name will come back to me pretty soon if anyone in the comments can remind me. But yeah, they're not the first to do it, but it's a great added feature that makes the Switch edition more appealing. Of course, you have to buy the game again, but um, it is something that a lot of PC gamers have been wanting. They just want to be able to play between their PC in a convenient way, playing a handheld out. So I would really like it if more developers were able to get up on this and get their Switch version and their PC version up on a cloud save, or work with Steam and GOG in some way to make a cloud gaming between the Nintendo Switch and the Steam OS. That would be really awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's good to see that they're trying to improve the game like as much as possible, with all these improvements, especially the save file integration, because they very easily could have just like we got our amazing PC game running on the Switch and kind of just hung their hat on that, right? Because that's a very big accomplishment that could not have been easy, even if it is scaled down a little bit to make that happen. But they're actually trying to go, they're keeping up support for the game. They're trying to improve it because they know, like, they had to dial it back just to get it working, most likely. Now it's kind of like tweaking and trying to optimize it, you know.
Yeah, and speaking of which, they've actually added graphical support for the game also. While the game, when it first came out on the Switch, had predetermined graphical settings on it, they have now added um, more graphical options to say. And they are, and we are reading this from an RPG site article, but the graphic options are reportedly You can change the settings of the bloom, sharpen, depth of field, for cutscenes, cinematic aberration, water quality, foliage visibility range, and anti-aliasing. So they that's a significant amount for that Switch game. I personally haven't tested it yet. I really should, but I haven't tested it yet, and it really I'm curious to see if it'll blow up my Switch or not. If I try like the Switch Lite or the regular Switch, one of the two. But those are really nice added features. And then it also has touch control support, which I guess for the UI menu, it'll let you touch on the Switch itself instead of having to use your button to it. Added more text languages and select regions. Added multiple performance optimizations. That's also really nice. It sounds like it'll optimize the game in the way you want it. If you want it to look better or perform better, I would imagine.
I would hope that they have kind of saved like settings for that. I don't know. I haven't tested it. Obviously, I don't have the game, but like so that if you actually play it on the TV or you take it out and play it handheld, that you could very quickly like adjust the settings. You know, that would be a good feature to have, I think.
Yeah, if you're going to be like in the combat heavy plays, like set it to performance mode, and if you just want to go out and explore the area, you can probably set it to make it look a little better. The one thing it does mention here when transferring saves from PC, please keep in mind mod related bugs and blockers might get transferred from a modded PC game save file. So if you're someone who uses a lot of mods in your PC version, just take caution when you transfer the save files. It could potentially corrupt the data. So if you transfer between the PC and the Switch, I would probably recommend making sure it's a normal file that doesn't have any strong mods in it.
Yeah. Have a backup for sure.
The other thing it says, if the save file name has been changed on PC, the Switch's cloud save feature won't be able to recognize. Not exactly sure what that means, but I would probably just not mess with any of it and just use it the way they completely intend it. So I would probably just leave it at that. But yeah, this is a significant update. This makes it like a strong selling point for it now. If you've been looking for any excuse to play The Witcher portably, it's like you can transfer your save file between the PC and the Switch version now. Like especially if you bought the PC version before, got really far, and you're like, man, I really wanted to play on the Switch, but I've gotten so far in the game. I mean, there's a lot of excuses. But it's a really nice update. Way to go, CD Projekt Red, on taking an extra step on this. We were already happy with what you did before, so it was really awesome. You were step in even more and make this still one of the greatest games of all time and beyond that.
Yep. It's amazing how much just, you know, improving your product and taking your time and releasing a really good game like The Witcher 3 can kind of put your company you know, in good standing with the gamers, the community, right?
Yeah.
CD Projekt Red, it seems like, I mean, they've released, if I'm not mistaken, 2 games, Witcher 3 and also the card game variant, right?
Yeah,
Gwent. Like two games this whole generation, 3 games by the time we're done with Cyberpunk, right? But they are like at the top of everybody's list in terms of like the AAA developers, right?
Yeah, actually, now that you bring up Cyberpunk, there is tidbit of news for that I can bring up. It's very recent news, but apparently, if this is only confirmed for Xbox right now, if you purchase Cyberpunk 2077 when it comes out on the Xbox One, they will offer you a free upgrade to the new Xbox Series X when it comes out. They will offer the upgrade to you for free. I'm assuming if it's a digital purchase, they will they'll automatically make it Xbox One Series X there. So that's actually a really cool thing because I was actually thinking to myself, like, Cyberpunk is like right in front of the new consoles coming out.
It is, yeah.
I imagine they may do the same thing for Sony and just offer to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for free if you purchase it digitally. But it is confirmed from Microsoft. So if you're worried about the game not if you're worried about waiting for the game having another version, they will upgrade you for free if you get the Microsoft version.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, I think, because I've mentioned in the past that, I was interested in getting the game, but then once they pushed it back to September, I was like, oh, the new consoles are going to come out in that time frame, like October, November probably. So that's kind of like a tougher sell, like I was like thinking like, well, pretty sure like in early 2021 there will be a, enhanced or director's cut version of Cyberpunk. But if you can buy it on the current generation and then upgrade for free, then they should really push that like in the marketing, right? Because if people find that out, that's like the one hurdle I think for getting the game at this point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm looking forward to that game too. I mean, it kind of feels like a CD Project Red can't do no wrong right now. And I'm sure,
Yeah.
and I have been seeing people like try to dig dirt on them. They're like, oh, they do crunch times too. Oh, they're not so great, are they? It's like, so what?
Yeah.
It's like all the positives they do outweigh the negatives. So good luck. Unless they murder children without us knowing, it's like I think it's gonna be pretty hard to uh, convince people that they're all of a sudden an evil company like EA or Ubisoft.
hmm
Not Ubisoft. I mean Activision.
Right, right.
But yeah. Anyways, uh, moving on to the next topic. I'm not too familiar with Fairy Tale at all. I'm not a big anime watcher like I used to be, like I was a teenager. Um, I would watch anything that anyone else was watching. I'm like, oh, this is popular. I gotta watch this. But no, I've never watched Fairy Tale before, so obviously the RPG is not gonna resonate with me personally. But there are Fairy Tales apparently a really popular series with a lot of people,
From
and
what I
I think there's a
understand,
lot
yeah.
of people excited for the RPG coming out. But unfortunately, it looks like it got delayed from March 19th of this year to June 25th of this year. So it's going to have roughly a 3-month delay.
Yep.
And there was a statement from the producer Aisuke Kikuchi. Yeah, I butchered that to hell. But he has a quote here from an article from Destructoid that says, I am truly sorry for Fairy Tale's delay and the inconvenience caused to our fans, partners, and stakeholders who are looking forward to this title. Please allow us to take further time to polish the game to ensure it is high quality as possible so we can offer you a truly immersive experience. We'll we will be working hard to enhance the magic effects, event scene effects, improving the game balance, and more. This delay will allow us to ensure we provide you a much more satisfying game. Thank you for your understanding. So,
Pretty straightforward.
pretty straightforward.
It
They
needs to be
just need to
improved.
brush up.
Yep.
Are you a Fairy Tale fan at all?
No. I was actually not even aware of the anime until I heard about this game a while back, when we were doing research for our like the games coming out in 2020. I was like, Fairy Tale, what's that? And I looked at it and it's like, oh, it's an anime, Okay. Um, but yeah, it's being delayed. The original date was March 19th to June 25th. So I'm pretty sure it's probably true that the game needs to be polished, but also it's probably very wise to run away from Persona 5 Royale and Final Fantasy 7 Remake that are coming out not too shortly after, because
God, April is such a busy month. You got
yeah,
FF7 Remake and Trials of Mana Remake that very same month.
yeah, it's yeah, I don't blame Fairy Tale RPG for thinking, like, hey, maybe March, April is not looking so good.
Maybe give yourselves an opportunity to brush up on.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, my knowledge isn't too much on this, but like I said, I know there's a lot of fans of the series, and actually, I've heard a lot of people excited and looking forward to the RPG aspect. I guess it's going to kind of I guess be similar to Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, where it'll be an RPG, but it'll go through the main steps of the RPG or whatnot. I imagine that's what it'll be. So it'll probably be kind of like your standard RPG, but if you're a fairy tale fan, I'm sure it'll appeal to you. But
Hmm.
that was one of our quick news. Our last quick news is uh, from Bioware, who plans to quote unquote reinvent Anthem. Now we are a little late to this, but we were interested in what they had to say about it. Basically, what they're doing is they're kind of like doing a version 2.0 where they're just like gonna like just completely redo the game from scratch and just uh, take in all the feedback and make a completely different game that's more fun. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
gonna say it sounds familiar.
Final Fantasy 14 went through almost the same thing. I don't think Anthem was as disastrous as 14 1.0, but um, like at Phoenix, it raised from the ashes and came back, and now it's one of the greatest MMOs ever made. And thanks to a dedicated team who really cared about the series and wanted the game to succeed.
Hmm.
So hopefully, BioWare gets some people together who have the same mindset, even though a lot of their people keep leaving one after another for
Yeah.
this. And a lot of people were just not sure where the series is going to go from here. Are they going to shut down the servers or going to do more to it? Um, but they have finally updated and said that they are currently in works of a complete reinvention of the game. And Casey Hudson actually does have a quote here also. Uh, It'll require a more substantial reinvention than the update or expansion. Over the coming months, we will be focusing on a longer term redesign of the experience, specifically working to reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and progression with meaningful reward, while preserving the fun of flying and fighting in a vast science fantasy setting. So, yeah, it may be one of those tales. I know No Man's Sky was another famous example. It
Hmm.
came out, a lot of people were displeased with how the game was. They felt a lot of promises made in the game were not given. The developers listened and they pretty much made a version 2.0 of their own of No Man's Sky. And while it's unfortunate that not many people play the game, for those who do, though, they say the game is so much better than it did at launch. It's like there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of options, and there's stuff there that will keep you hooked for hours among hours among hours. And they really listen. So hopefully, Bioware will be the third story of this type of thing. Really, it shouldn't happen in the first place, but
Right.
it's always interesting to see something go so low then come back so high. So honestly, I do hope things work out for them. Um, if I know they're also coming out with Dragon Age 4. Unfortunately, if Dragon Age 4 fails, that will probably be the 6 foot that they dug their grave in
Yeah.
before EA shoots them in the back of the head.
Yeah.
So
Like
I hope it
that's
works out
happened.
for them.
Yeah. The for Anthem, the in this article, the part that stuck out to me was when he said we will be focusing on a longer term redesign and working to reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and so on. That's like reinvent the core gameplay loop. That sounds very like a lot of work. Like if they're going to actually deliver on that, it sounds like the game will feel totally different in this whatever they decide to call it, rebranded version of Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, they really have not been doing much from what I hear. They may have taken it down by now, but when I heard it, they still had the Christmas decorations up when it was February. But it's still February, but 2 weeks ago I heard that and I'm like, wow, they can't even take time to just like take the Christmas stuff down and just keep the game the way it is. It's like either they're working so hard on something they just don't care or don't have time for that, or like I said, they just straight out don't care
Yeah,
and don't even feel like taking the time for it.
yeah. I mean, even I took my Christmas lights down by now. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I took mine out in January, maybe a little bit into January, but at least I did. But yeah, good luck to Bioware. I hope things work out for you. Um, just for a second, I want to give a shout out to our media partner that we have with RPGFan.com. They give you the latest on RPG news, game reviews, soundtrack reviews. They have awesome podcasts like Random Encounter, who focuses on RPG news, discussions, opinions about twice a month. And they also got Retro Encounter, that's kind of like a book club style RPG podcast. They all play one game and they kind of discuss it like I said, a book club. That's really cool. Also, they also are planning this week to release a review of the Dragon Quest movie, which we also, me and Hat discussed about last week, and you can check out that episode back there if you want to hear our thoughts on it. But RPG Fan also is going to be giving a review themselves, and they are also going to be giving a review of the Fire Emblem Three Houses DLC, which came out recently, which is while Hat did not write the review, he did. It is read and narrated by him, and footage provided by him. So that's really cool. But yeah, definitely check out their site. It's I'm still pretty amazed that they're still up and as relevant as ever after all these years. I remember back in, God, it had to be like early 2000s, and I was looking for like any information on any latest upcoming RPGs. RPG Fan was one of the sites that helped give me the most relevant information you possibly could with the limited information you could actually get or find. And seeing them here today still going on is pretty awesome in my book. So it's really cool. I actually get to, we get to work with them. And another promotion, we will be doing Final Fantasy VII discussion sometime in the future, right before the remake comes out. We want to discuss probably particularly the Midgar section, and we're probably going to be dissecting that like crazy when the FF7 Remake comes out. So we do want to go over Final Fantasy VII, the original game, again before we dive into this one, so we can talk about the remake didn't do this, the remake didn't do that, it's not like the original, it's horrible, don't play the game. Stuff like that. But yeah, we're going to go through the game again, and I know we all like to play FF7 at least once or twice a year, so I'll definitely be fresh on our minds then. But that is coming up. We don't exactly have a date for it. We were planning on doing it earlier, but with the delay of the game, we kind of had to shift the dates around. But we will let you know in upcoming podcasts when we decide that we're going to do a Final Fantasy VII focused episode. Now to our Discord question, and this comes from Valvadrix, who is a frequent viewer of our channel, and they write, has a game ever captivated you so much that you didn't want to stop playing it, and if so, which game was it? And he mentions this question was inspired by a friend of mine who started playing FF9 recently and didn't even notice it when 6 hours passed. But even then, he still wanted to keep playing. That's the best Final Fantasy, man. I don't blame him. But why don't you go ahead, Stan? What captivated you and kept you hours on then?
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's happened more than once, especially when I was younger. You know, when you're a kid and you have, you know, free time on after school or um, you know, on the weekends especially, like I've poured hours and hours into many, many different games, but for this question specifically, like you a game you just didn't want to stop playing. The first one that came to my mind was Shadow of the Colossus on PS2 um, when it first came out. I got it as a Christmas present, and I remember that Christmas fell like pretty close towards the end of the week. It was either like a Thursday or a Friday that year. It's always on the 25th, so it's a different day, but it was either a Thursday or Friday, and I got it. I got it for Christmas, and I had put it on my list. I was looking forward to it. You know, it wasn't a surprise that I got it, but I was like really happy because I was really looking forward to the game, and I had like been looking at previews and everything of it, getting ready for it, and I beat it, you know, over the weekend. Now that's not like super impressive or anything because it's it's not a long game, right? But just I was just so immersed in that game. Like you know, I still remember like booting up the PS2 and playing it and just like getting lost in that world, not like lost like I couldn't find out where to go, but just being like almost every hour that I was either playing the game or not playing the game, I was just thinking about it, you know. And then yeah, I beat all the Colossus in that weekend, and like I remember my parents who got me the game, they were like, "You beat it already? Like, you know, this game was supposed to last you." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. This was like the best game ever. I love this game."
Oh yeah, man, Shadow Colossus, fantastic game. I assume you played the remaster that came out on the PS4.
I actually haven't played it yet. I played the PS3 version, the HD port essentially of the original.
I would
Um,
highly recommend the remake on PS4.
yeah,
Like it completely retains what you love about the PS2 version and modernize the graphics and feeling of it to make it feel modern also. So
yeah,
I mean, if you're itching to play that game again, I
hmm
think it's actually pretty cheap. I think it's under $20.
yeah. I've seen it on sale a few times over
Yeah.
the past year.
So if you got an itch for Shadow of the Colossus, I would definitely play that.
Yeah, I might have to
You'll get
soon.
captivated again.
Yep.
For me, I guess I'll do some recent stuff because there's so many things that have captivated, kept me hooked to my seat for hours. I mean, any Dragon Quest game, any Zelda game is capable of doing this to me.
hmm
I will say, for if there's any recent one, Final Fantasy 11 has kept me glued to my seat. Um, they've done a lot of stuff to make it more single player now, and I've already got 7 days worth of gameplay on it,
Wow.
without keeping my character logged on. I've always logged off when I'm done, and I got myself to level 99, and I've been trekking through the story right now. That's what I've been wanting to do, is go through the main story campaigns again, and I've been having a blast doing it. And like the hours just go by. Like I wake up at like 7:30 in the morning or so, and I start playing it, and then like when I have like a whole day off, like I see it's like almost 6 o'clock, and my wife is telling me like, you know, we got to start getting ready, and I'm like, oh shit, it's like I need to start getting ready. And like I got to get up and start doing it. Like the world really captivates you, like whether if it's like the music or just like the really more casual gameplay now and everything. You get the opportunity to be captivated to the world, and I don't know, it like it's just hours on end for me. And
Hmm.
I've just been enjoying it. I'll probably play it after we're done here, more than likely. I'm on the final boss of Rise of the Zillard, so I'm pretty excited to finish that one off before I head over to Chains of Promathia. And I know it's more of a niche thing. FF11, there are a lot of elements to it that some people would consider archaic and not willing to deal with just to progress in the story. So I completely understand that, but if you really want to try it, then like this is the best time to do it. Best casual for right now. And I'm advertising 11 and 14.
Well, it's amazing that it's still going. I mean, that was a
18 years.
Yeah, PS2 game on it, on its own at one time.
Mm-hmm. They did shut the PS2 and 360 version, so you have to play it on PC.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's reasonable, I think. 2 console generations ago.
Yeah, 2002 is when they came out on the PlayStation 2. Technically, I think it had its run. They shut it down, I think, like 3 years ago, roughly around there. I'm like, yeah, like thank God they did. They can actually do stuff to the game. So PS2 hard drive limitation.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's the most captivating for me recently. Like I said, of course, Dragon Quest and ones I'll always think hours to also. And if a Final Fantasy is actually good, I will. But yeah, that's our Discord question there. And that actually looks like all our topics today, we actually hit around an hour.
Yep.
Which is a pretty good time, which is weird because we had a FF7 remake topic in there. That would have taken it up to 2 hours maybe. But yeah, but that's everything today. Hat should be returning with us next week. Everything should be back to normal. But until then, take care, everyone.
All right. See you next time.